What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another Nail Polish 101 video for you. If you're not familiar with it, this is my series where I go over the absolute basics of nail polish and try to teach you everything you need to know to do a great manicure by yourself. Now it's been a little while since I've done a Nail Polish 101 video, but I've been getting a lot of comments, especially recently from you guys, asking me different questions about magnetic nail polish, so I thought I would do a whole video on it. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to go over all the basics. What is magnetic nail polish? How do you get a magnetic manicure? And then we're also going to go over some little tricks and hacks that you can do, different shaped magnets that you can use, and also different ways to use magnetic nail polish. So let's start off with the frequently asked questions that I get in the comments of my videos. Question number one, what is magnetic nail polish? And that is nail polish that has a shimmer in it that actually is magnetic. So when you put a magnet near it, it activates that magnetic pigment and you can move it around and create three-dimensional shapes on your nails using that shimmer. Magnetic pigment can come in a lot of different finishes. Most commonly, like the basic magnetic polish would be a regular shimmer nail polish, but sometimes it is in a jelly so you get a sheer look. Sometimes it comes with flakies or hollow or multi-chrome pigment, and it really can create so many different kinds of manicures. And what's really cool about it is even with one bottle of magnetic nail polish, you can actually create a lot of different looks. My next frequently asked question is, do magnetic nail polishes expire? So a lot of you may not know this, but there are different types of nail polishes that over time just kind of stop working. And what I mean by that is you can still paint your nails with them, but they don't have certain special features. So for example, a thermal nail polish, over time it will settle permanently into one color and it won't shift colors based on the temperature anymore. That is actually not the case with magnetic nail polishes. In my experience, they do magnetize indefinitely, so as long as you have a magnet, you can magnetize the polish. Next frequently asked question is, do fridge magnets work on magnetic nail polishes? In my experience, they do not. I think you need a particularly strong magnet to magnetize your nail polish. In my experience, regular fridge magnets are just too thin and you really can't get any magnetization out of them on your nails. And there's also a lot less control than when you're using a magnetic wand specifically designed for nail polish. But once you own one magnetic nail polish wand, you do not need to buy any more. So once you own one, you can use this on any magnetic nail polish. So now that we've gotten the FAQ out of the way, let's go over how to do the perfect magnetic manicure. Now there are a few different ways that you can create a magnetic manicure, and some brands recommend doing different ways. This is the way that I found personally to be the most successful, and this is the way that I do a magnetic manicure every single time. Now, when you are using a magnetic nail polish, the most important thing to have is your magnet. So most brands sell these. Like I said, once you have one, you don't need to buy from other brands. Certain brands do have thicker magnets than others, but for the most part, I find that they work pretty much the same. So most magnets will have two sides. One side will be this rectangular side, which is how you do the most common methods of magnetization. And then we also have this little round magnet. Honestly, I personally find that this magnet on the other side is meant for longer nails because I don't really get the best magnetization with it, but I will show you how to use that later in the video. So step one is to paint a full manicure on your nails as if you're just using a regular nail polish. So you do always want to use base coat just to protect your natural nail and prevent stains. And then you want to paint the magnetic nail polish on for full opacity without magnetizing it. So usually in my experience, magnetic nail polishes take 2 coats for full opacity. And that's just on my nail length, but that's just my personal experience. You just want to make sure that you paint it on so that you get the full coverage that you want on the manicure. So once that's done, we move on to the next step. And what's really important with magnetic nail polishes after you do the initial manicure is you want to work one nail at a time. As the polish dries, it is going to stop responding to the magnet. So as soon as you paint on to start to magnetize, you want to do that one nail specifically until it starts to dry. So now this is where it can get tricky. There are a couple of different ways that you can magnetize your nails at this point. So personally, the way that I recommend doing it is painting on a thicker final coat on your nails, like I said, one at a time. And then while that nail polish is still wet, you take your magnet and you hover it over your nail for 30 to 60 seconds. And what that's going to do is that's going to attract all of that magnetic pigment into a nice line. Usually I do a diagonal line just because I think that looks cool. And then when you pull away your magnet, you're gonna have a cool line that as you move your nail around, you're gonna see has an almost three-dimensional effect on your nails. There is a second method that a lot of people like to do and recommend, and that is taking the magnet and holding it under your nail while you paint that final coat of polish on. It's a really good trick if you have shaky hands or if you can't work fast enough to magnetize while the polish is still wet. Definitely a great beginner method, but in my experience, I do find that the magnetic line is a little bit less intense. Maybe it's just because I have thicker fingers, but I do find that the magnet is more dispersed when I do it that way. So personally, I just like to get the magnet as close as possible, but I will say there is a little bit of troubleshooting that can happen. Sometimes you get your magnet a little bit too close to your hand, or you start to let it droop a little bit and it can touch your nail, which if your nail is still wet, which it should be at this point, you are going to smudge your manicure. So it can be tricky for beginners, but once you have a comfortable position where you're putting your hand, you shouldn't have too much of an issue. So during this step, it is important to hold the magnet as long as you can. If you're painting with your magnet under your nail, you want to keep your nail in that position with the magnet under it for at least 30 to 60 seconds until the polish starts to dry. Same if you are hovering it over your nail, because you want to make sure that the pigment starts to dry while it is magnetized. Otherwise, that's how you start to get the pigment dispersing a little bit, and then by the time you're done with your manicure, it doesn't really look magnetic anymore. Now, this style that I'm showing you with the line down your nail, this is called the cat eye style of magnetization. This is the most common way to magnetize a nail polish in my experience, but there are a few other ways that you can do it. There's also what people like to call the aura style or the velvet style. I've also heard it called a crystal style, and basically it's the same thing. You want to paint on for full opacity, and then working one nail at a time, you paint on your final thicker coat to magnetize. And instead of hovering the magnet over your nail, what you do is you take the magnet, you want it to be face down. So the black part or whatever color of your magnet is facing you, and the magnet itself is facing whatever surface you're painting on. And you want to hover the magnet around your nail, basically kind of creating a box piece by piece. So I always like to start at the bottom of the nail, and then I go to one side, then I go to the top of the nail, then I go to the other side, and that creates that aura or velvet look. So it's a little bit harder to see on camera, but basically what it does is it pulls all of that magnetic pigment to the surface of your nails so that underneath you have the color and over it you have that magnetic sparkle. So as you move your nail around, it almost reminds me of like, well, it definitely reminds me of velvet, but it also kind of reminds me of marbles, where as you kind of move your nail around, you're seeing the dimensionality of that nail. So at some angles, you see the color underneath, at some angles, you see that magnetic shimmer, and it can look really cool. So for the aura style, it's a little bit different. Basically, I just like to hover the magnet around until the magnetic pigment stops moving, and that's how I know that it's dry enough that I can pull the magnet away. So those are the two most common ways to magnetize your nail. I'm going to show you a couple of different methods as well, but those are the standard ways that if you're using this standard double-sided magnet, this is the way that people usually do it. So the next step, once you've done all of your nails one at a time, magnetizing them how you want to magnetize them, you want to go in with your top coat. So top coat is always important because it does seal your manicure, it helps it dry fully, and it also keeps it lasting longer. But the interesting thing about top coat when it comes to magnetic nail polish is it's gonna slightly reactivate that magnetic pigment underneath. So what you want to do after you apply your top coat, again, working one nail at a time, you want to magnetize the polish again. So if you're doing the cat eye style, you want to hover the magnet over it again for at least 30 seconds until that top coat starts to dry, just so again that pigment doesn't start to disperse. And same thing with the aura style, you want to hover the magnet around your nail just to make sure that the pigment doesn't stop being magnetic. Like I said, once your nails are dry, they're not going to respond to the magnet anymore, but they should keep that magnetic style. So in the case of the cat eye, if you did those diagonal lines, it should stay in diagonal diagonal lines for the length of your manicure. Sometimes over the course of several days, it will slowly start to spread out. I do notice that at the end of my manicure, when I'm about to take it off, the lines are a little bit less sharp, but it really does disperse very slowly, and you will find that the line stays sharper as long as you're magnetizing that top coat. So yeah, those are the steps to create the perfect magnetic manicure, just with the absolute basics. But there are some really fun ways that you can use magnetic nail polish aside from just wearing them as a regular manicure. So let me show you some of those examples. So I'm sure this will come as no surprise to anybody who watches my videos, but one thing that I love to do with magnetic nail polishes is wear them as a jelly sandwich. There are a lot of polishes that are magnetic and also sheer, so it really invites a lot of ways that you can wear them. So one type of magnetic nail polish that exists would be the magnetic topper style of polish, where the base is actually clear and all of the pigment in the bottle is the magnetic pigment. So in this case, you can actually layer these over any existing color that you have. So if you want to create a three-dimensional magnetic type of polish, but you want to use a specific color that you already have in your collection, you can use a magnetic polish as a topper, and then you can magnetize it, and then it'll kind of give you the best of both worlds. So you get the color that you wanted to wear, but you also get to wear it as a magnetic. And this works in every style of magnetization. But there's also the sandwich version, which I love to do, which is when you take a jelly nail polish and basically you create a sandwich with the magnetic polish in the middle. So what I like to do is a layer of my jelly to get that color base down. Then I apply my magnetic nail polish and I do magnetize it for the 30 to 60 seconds. And then I'll go in with my jelly polish again, cover that up, magnetize it again just to make sure that line stays nice and sharp. And then I've created a jelly sandwich. So in this example, you can see it turned that silver pigment into a pinky color. And now I have this red to pink magnetic manicure. We also have the round magnet, which, like I said, I personally don't really use it. I don't think it gives me the best magnetic manicure. What the round magnet does is it actually repels the magnetic pigment instead of pulling it close. So you're basically creating these holes or gaps where the magnetic pigment shouldn't be. So the most common way I see that being done is people will do it diagonally. So they'll put the round magnet hovering over the top left of their nail, for example, and then the bottom right of their nail to kind of create like a little wavy pattern. But like I said, I just don't think it works that well on shorter nails. Maybe I just need more practice. So I don't really use that too much. There are also some other ways to experiment just with this regular magnet. It's really fun to do nail art with a magnetic polish. One that I've seen before is a French manicure. So you do the French tip in the magnetic polish, and then you can create that sort of velvety look with the aura style, or just in general doing some sort of color blocking or something like that would be really fun to experiment with a magnet. I actually recently purchased this set off of Amazon, and this is different shaped magnets. So this is another really fun way to kind of switch up your magnetic manicure and get different looks. I haven't seen too many brands do different types of magnets. I know KB Shimmer came out with a limited edition magnet that kind of created like a little swirly zigzag on your nails, which was really cool. Let me go through and show you the different shapes that you can do with these magnets. There's 9 different shapes, and then we also have a little magnetic pen. One thing to note about these magnets is they are significantly bigger than my nails. My nails are pretty short and they're also pretty small. So this would work really well for bigger nails as well. It honestly might even work better, but I think a lot of these ended up looking pretty good on me. But it's nice to be able to have that option where if your nails are longer, you can still do a cool magnetic manicure. So I'll show you each of the magnets from this pack. Not all of them look like what they are illustrated as on the other side, but basically you just hover it over your nail. I will say these are pretty big. So the first time I did it, I accidentally smushed it onto my nail, which got this result. But there is a little stand on them to make it easier. So it's just easier when you don't have a camera in the way and you can look directly at it. But number one is these horizontal stripes. And just in the interest of making this a speedy review, I'm going to skip the 30 to 60 seconds of actually holding the manicure, but this one actually turned out really gorgeous. So I'm definitely going to be using Magnet 1 a lot. Magnet 2 is a similar vibe, except for this one is diagonal lines. And you might be thinking to yourself, that's basically the same as the first one. But honestly, when you're doing multiple nails in a diagonal line, sometimes they can be a little inconsistent with the angle. So I definitely appreciated this one. This one also turned turned out really good in my opinion. And this is another one that I'm definitely going to be using a lot. I can imagine this with a red manicure would be so perfect for like a candy cane sort of vibe. Next up is magnet number 3. This one looks kind of like a starburst or an asterisk. And I will say shapes like this are definitely tougher on small nails like mine, just because it's hard to get that starburst in the center of the nail. And also there's just not enough space to magnetize. So this one kind of looked like a really weird X on my nail. So definitely not one that I'm going to be using frequently or ever. Next up is number 4. And this one is sort of this chevron pattern for the nails. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't have high hopes for this one because I do notice that the ones that are more complicated patterns like this are really hard to translate into magnetic patterns just because there's so many magnets kind of warring for that pigment's attention. But I will say, I do think that this kind of gave me a little bit of a leafy look, and I feel like with a green polish, it could give like a little stamped leaf pattern. So it could be cool, but I have to experiment more with it. And then we have magnet number 5, which is basically that same pattern, but without the vertical line. So this one I definitely had higher hopes for. I just thought that this was going to end up being a lot sharper, and I'm a little conflicted because I do think that it gives a nice sharp magnet line, but it's not as pointy as I would have liked, but I still think it's pretty cool, so we'll probably use this one. I also just want to make a quick note, this was a very inexpensive kit, so even if there are magnets that I'm not going to use, I'm still glad that I bought it. Then we have magnet number 6, and this one is sort of this fishnet kind of pattern, and I had no idea how this one was going to look, and I have to tell you, nothing could have prepared me for what it ended up looking like on my nails, which is one squiggly line down my nail. So clearly I did not center that well, but I actually do like the way that this one looks. I'm just so confused as to why it has that sort of fishnet pattern on the front, because I am gonna have a hard time remembering that this is the squiggly one. Speaking of squiggly ones, magnet number 7 is this squiggly sort of line, and I was excited about this one. Again, I just find that these lined ones just work a little bit better on my nails. So I tried this one out, and I have to say I'm not a fan of this one. I think it's just because my nails are too small, so I didn't really get a squiggle as much as I just kind of got a line, and it's not a straight line, but it doesn't really look very intentional to me. Then we have magnet number 8, which is actually a heart magnet, and I really didn't think that this one was going to work on me, but I ended up actually thinking that it looked pretty decent. I feel like I can make this one work on my thumbs. Just a quick note, I did end up doing this upside down, but I think that ended up looking pretty cute. It kind of just creates this blank space where the heart is, and then all of the magnetic pigment is around it. Definitely could have done a better job centering it, but with practice, I feel like this one could be very cute. And then the final magnet is this one, number 9, which is a straight line with what looks like brackets on either side, although when I did finally apply this one on my nails, I realized that it just created the line, so I didn't get the weird little parentheses around it, which I'm glad for because I didn't really see a use in those. Again, I didn't really center it very well. I think that's just user error because it's hard to magnetize things when you have a camera in the way, but if I was just in front of my nail, I would be able to center it just fine. The kit also came with this little pen magnet, which to me basically just looks like a mini version of the circle on the back of double-sided magnets, and I think it's actually a really cool concept, just kind of being able to freestyle your magnetic lines or designs. And in this case, I just tried to do a couple of horizontal lines. It doesn't look great. I don't think the magnet is very strong, but I feel like I could play around and do cooler things. Just for fun, I also decided to try doing a little bit more of a squiggly line just to kind of recreate, in a sense, what I couldn't do with the circular magnet, and I don't think that looked great either, but again, I think I could get better at it with practice. So yeah, that's just a bunch of different shapes that you can do, and then we also have that freestyle pen, which is really fun. But really, the world is your oyster when it comes to magnetic manicures. There's so many different ways to play around with them. Before I wrap up the video, I do want to go over just a few troubleshooting tips. If you are having a hard time with your magnetic manicure, here's a couple of solutions that might help you. So one common issue that I see for people is they say that the polish isn't magnetizing for them. In that case, I always recommend just giving the polish a good shake. A lot of times that magnetic pigment can start to settle to the bottom of the bottle, and when you're painting your nails, you might not be getting a lot of that magnetic pigment. So if you give it a good shake, it should be able to magnetize a little bit better. Sometimes what I like to do in order to kind of like get that magnetic pigment up there is I'll actually magnetize the bottle just to kind of pull that magnetic pigment up, and then I'll give it a good shake, and that's how I know that it's nicely dispersed throughout the bottle. You also want to be mindful of your environment. I've talked a little bit in previous videos about the best conditions for painting your nails, but you want to avoid being in a room that's too cold or that has a fan blowing or air blowing directly onto your nails, because that can cause your nail polish to dry too quickly and it can cause that magnetic pigment to set before you get a chance to magnetize it. But I will say some brands are more magnetic than others. It's really just a case of trial and error, definitely finding different reviews of different brands. Some brands just give you a sharper magnetic line. Some of them are a little bit more dispersed even when you first do them. Next troubleshooting tip is one that I just recently went over, but if you're having an issue where you keep on knocking into your nail with the magnet, just switch to the other style of magnetization. You can still do a cat eye. You just want to hold your magnet under your nail instead of hovering it over after you're done. It's just an easy way to still get that style of magnetization without knocking into your nail. There are also tools that you can use to help you with that. KB Shimmer does sell this little magnet stand, which is really convenient if you still want to hold the magnet over your nail, but you do have a shaky hand or you keep on knocking into your nail. Basically, it just sits on the table, and then as soon as you're done painting your nail, you slide your nail under it and it should magnetize for you. And you can move the magnet around, so if you want it to be a vertical or horizontal or diagonal line, you can do that. But I think that this is a really great product. I think it makes painting your nails with magnetic polish very accessible. But yeah, that is the tips that I have for you today. If you have any other questions about magnetic polishes or how to magnetize in certain ways, definitely leave them in the comments and I will answer all the questions that I can. I'll also link the Amazon kit that I got down in the description, as well as the KB Shimmer magnet stand. And I'll also pop some brands down in the description that I recommend that I think magnetize really well. But yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What do you think of magnetic nail polishes? I know they can be a little bit tedious, but personally, I always think that the result looks so cool. So leave all your thoughts in the comments and we can chat about it. If you enjoy my Nail Polish 101 videos, definitely give this one a thumbs up. It really helps me out and lets me know I'm doing a good job. And if you have any requests for different Nail Polish 101 videos you want to see, you can also leave those in the comments. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And of course, a huge shout out to my supporters on Patreon, my Royal Astronomer Amanda M, as well as my Cosmic Admirals Paula, Ken, and Rosie. I really appreciate your support and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Today's fun fact question is a would you rather question, because I was thinking about this. I thought I knew the answer, but I feel like I could be wrong. Would you rather text someone or call them? Actually, now that I think about it, it could be specific based on who you're trying to text or call, but I was thinking about it and it's interesting to me because I realized that I used to be so much more of a text person, where anytime I wanted to reach out to somebody, I would always just text them. Now I'm so much more of a fan of calling because I like to share a lot and I don't think my fingers move fast enough for it, but I also like to hear people's tones because it's so easy to misread tones in text messages. And it's just really interesting to see that shift from always texting to almost always calling. But there are definitely a lot of occasions where I text instead, and I feel like I always pre-text somebody before I call them to make sure that they're free. So I am curious to hear from you guys. Do you prefer texting or do you prefer calling? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.